If you have $1,300 to spend on a new gaming PC build, you can actually get a system that will perform great at 4K resolution and 1440p. So if that's your goal and you have this amount of money, I will talk to you about the best PC build you can get for gaming at that price point. If you're a beginner, don't worry, because I will try to explain everything as simple as possible. That way you understand everything I'm saying when talking about these components. And talking about the components, you will have them in the video description, and some of them are on sale, so maybe when you're watching this video they are more expensive. That being said, let's start. With the CPU we have the AMD Ryzen 5 7600. Now, if you don't know anything about computers, this is a great 6-core 12-thread processor that's going to be way more than enough for gaming, and because you get a new platform in the AM5 platform, is also upgradable over time. So let's say in 2 years you want to upgrade the CPU to a new AMD CPU, you will be able to do this without having to upgrade the motherboard. Also, it's important to say that this CPU is so good that will not bottleneck our GPU, which is the most important part on a gaming build. Then for the CPU cooler, we have the Thermalright Assassin X120. This is just a budget $20 cooler that is going to be way more than enough for our Ryzen 5 because of how power efficient is it. Spending anything more than this for this Ryzen 5, in my opinion, is useless, and honestly you can get away with this stock cooler, so if you want to save 20 bucks or so, you can actually stick to the CPU cooler from AMD. Then for the motherboard, we have the Gigabyte B650M, the S3H Micro ATX motherboard. This one has great VRMs. Honestly, the price is decent at $150. It's not the cheapest, but it's also not the most expensive one, and it's gonna be enough for future CPUs, which is what we're looking for here. It also has enough slots for storage, so let's say you want to add another terabyte of SSD in the future, you can do this without having to take out the current storage. Then for the memory kit, we have the TeamGroup T-Create Expert 32GB of RAM kit. This is 2x16, meaning that it's dual channel of DDR5 memory at 6000 MHz CL38. Now, if you don't know what this means, it's really fast. Honestly, there's nothing to worry about on the RAM, and because you get 32GB, you get a great system for streaming as well. Then for the storage, we have the MSI Spatium M450 1TB of Gen 4 SSD. This is really fast and really cheap actually. For 38 bucks, you're getting a whole terabyte of Gen 4 SSD, so I couldn't ask for more at this price point. And if you want to download a bunch of games, you might consider going with 2 terabytes, but that is going to be a bit more expensive. Then for the graphics card and the most important component for gaming, we have the AMD Radeon RX 6950 XT. This GPU is not only great for 1440p ultra settings at the highest level, but it's also great for 4K gaming. This is last generation's best GPU for gaming from AMD, so the price right now is 630 bucks, which yes, is really expensive, but it's actually really good for the price. If you wanna play esports titles such as Fortnite, Valorant, CSGO, or even games like Warzone, at 1440p or 4K pro settings, you will be able to achieve high FPS. So if you're looking for a high refresh rate monitor, let's say a 4K 144Hz monitor or a 1440p 240Hz one, you can take advantage of these refresh rates, so feel free to buy a high refresh rate monitor. And for you to see the estimated performance of this system on a 12-game average at 4K resolution, and we are talking about games that are high demanding, we have an average of 85 FPS on ultra settings. This is actually insane for the price. So yes, even if you want to play Cyberpunk 2077 or Flight Simulator, games like these on ultra to high settings are going to be more than playable even at 4K. And if you want to go for a 1440p monitor, then you're gonna get an average of 150 FPS on those same 12 games. So for 1440p, there's no limit, and for 4K, of course, you can get a better GPU like the RTX 4090, but that one is much more expensive, and honestly, if your budget is under $1,500, you will not be disappointed with the performance of this system. Now for the case, I picked the Fractal Design Meshify 2 Lite ATX mid-tower case. I chose this one because it's all black and this whole build is black. However, if you like RGB, I will leave alternatives in the video description for the CPU cooler, the memory kit and the case. That way you get an all RGB PC. Personally, I prefer black, but honestly, if you like RGB, that is totally fine, and that's why I'm gonna leave those alternatives. Like I said before, maybe when you're watching this video, this PC is more expensive, so I highly recommend you checking the latest prices in the description. And last but not least, the power supply, we have the Corsair RM750E. This is a 750 watt 80 plus gold power supply, 80 rated, meaning that it's the best quality out there, and the most important part is that it won't explode. This is the most important part on a power supply. As long as the PC will not explode, we have a good power supply. And of course, this one is super efficient as well. So for the price of $1,304, we are getting a great system for both 1440p and 4K gaming. For any game, honestly, there's no limit in which title you can't run, because you can run every title, and you also get 16 gigs of VRAM, which for a GPU is great right now, even at 4K resolution. If you don't know what VRAM is, this is basically the memory that the GPU has, different from the RAM of the system, but it's actually important if you want to play on ultra settings because of the textures. So 16 gigs is way more than enough, and even 12 gigs is enough, so imagine. And if you have a budget that's a bit lower than this, you can get almost the same performance for around $70 less, which is actually a really good discount. And the way you do this is by downgrading to 16 gigs of RAM of DDR5. Now this one is not as fast, but it's $43 and honestly is enough for gaming. Then I would change the graphics card to the same 6950 XT, but the XFX version, honestly you're gonna get the same performance, but it's $10 cheaper and it's a bit bigger. That's why I chose the other one, which is a bit smaller. And the last thing I would do is not putting any CPU cooler and sticking to the stock one from AMD. And if you do all these downgrades, the total price will be $1,230, so around $70 less for almost the same performance. And I say almost because you get 16 gigs of RAM, which is not quite the same performance when talking about streaming and multitasking, but for gaming it's definitely going to be more than enough. So honestly, even if you want to play at 4K ultra settings, you can get away with spending less money. And don't worry, if you got lost, you have the downgrades as well in the description. And let's say you don't want to build it yourself, maybe because you don't have time, perhaps you actually don't want to build the PC yourself, you're scared of messing everything up. Well, in that case, I recommend you buying Prebuilt PCs, and right now you have the 4th of July sales going on, so I recommend you watching my video about the best 4th of July Prebuilt PC deals in the top right of the screen. Trust me, right now is a great time to get a Prebuilt system. Thank you guys for watching, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.